Hi, everyone. I think we're live now. Um, Today, I'm joined by my colleague Stephen Farrell. He's on our community and national retrofit team. Thanks, Stephen. Welcome.
Welcome. Cheers. Thanks, Elise.
I'm Louise Ryan, actually, by the way. So I'm just going to be chatting to Stephen today. We're going to be discussing one-stop shops. It's a very huge demand for the scheme. We're getting a huge volume of queries every day on it. I know there's maybe some confusion out there. Maybe there's things that people just aren't sure about, and just we wanted to basically just give some clarification on it. So we want to answer the most commonly asked questions that we're getting through our phone lines, through our social channels, through email. And if there's anything then that we haven't answered, we'll, if anyone wants to ask any specific questions, we should have a few minutes at the end to just take some questions. So without further ado, we're going to try and keep this pretty short. So, Stephen, will you explain to me what the different grant routes are, first of all? So there's two basically grant routes, so
Yeah,
one-stop
no
shops
problem,
and the
Louise. Yeah,
individual
that's
grants. Yeah,
fine. So, I suppose the easiest way to explain it is, and I'd always say, is if we go into our website and look at the home energy upgrade section of the website, there's three strands. You have the individual energy upgrade strand, the one-stop service strand, and then you have the fully funded strand through the warmer homes. So, if I look at I'm going to focus in on the first two
yeah,
partially supported grant schemes. And looking firstly at the individual energy upgrade strand, which kind of services homes and grant supports measures such as for insulation in homes for pre-2011 homes and for renewable technologies for pre-21 homes. And this program is kind of managed, this scheme is kind of managed by the homeowner in terms of they manage the contract, they select the registers, so the whole contract is managed, the works are managed, and it's focused for people who don't have that significant amount of budget, and they kind of want to address maybe getting to a B2 over, say, a 2 to 3 year period. So the grants there's 80% grants for attic and cavity, and then I think on average they're about 45–50%. So a homeowner may decide over year 1 and 2 to do attic and cavity, and then 18 months later they might look to do a say heat pump work. So there's no onus on getting that house to a B2 in one go. It can be controlled over an extended period of time by the homeowner.
and there's
Then
no
on
time limit either. Like they don't have to do it within like 6 months or anything.
8 months, once they get their contract in
Yeah.
hand, they have to have the work complete. But in terms of different contracts, they might decide to do attic and cavity in year 1. They'll get it done in the contract time frame, and they'll do a heat pump, say, 18 months later, and get it done in the contract time frame.
Okay.
The next service is the one-stop shop service, and it's for homeowners who want to get to the B2 in one go, and they have a significant amount of budget. And we say on average, before any grant is applied, it's about 30 to 60K. And it covers a full suite of measures. And I suppose the addition about the one-stop shop approach is that's fully managed by our registered one-stop shops. And they're responsible for bringing the house up to a B2 in one go, for getting a required BER uplift. And the house has to be pre-2011. And like we would say to people before they kind of enter into discussions with a one-stop shop, it's for multiple measures. So it's not the single measures route. So there's a lot of people calling in and calling one-stop shops looking for kind of window and door grants only, to use that
Yeah.
example, because it's very common.
Yeah.
And it's not that type of scheme. So window and door grants are a part of the fabric, but it needs to be done as part of an extensive upgrade with attic insulation, wall insulation, heat pump, whatever is required to bring that house up to a B2 level and reach the necessary uplift at the end of the works. So that whole service is managed by a registered one-stop shop. And the grant limits, I suppose, based on a typical home, it's in the order of 45 to 50% of the costs. So it's fairly well supported. And in terms of the affordability side, if an upgrade costs 60 grand and the SCI grant comes to, say, 30K, the homeowner only has to they have to generate that 30K, so the net of the grant. So it comes
Okay.
slightly that bit more affordable. I know it's still a considerable amount,
Sure.
but
Yeah, of course.
it
But I mean, it's
becomes
a huge amount
slightly
of
more
work as
affordable.
well. Yeah.
Huge amount of work. It addresses, I suppose, it brings the house up to a B2, which is a good standard or better in one go, through the application of multiple energy efficiency measures.
Okay, and who is the one-stop shops for really? You talk about it being like this, it's all done at once. I mean, is there anyone that
Yeah.
this is really going to suit? Is it for people who've just maybe bought a house and are going to renovate it anyway? Um,
Yeah, it's for
Yeah.
people who are interested in upgrading their house for the long term. And basically the way the one-stop shop is set up, like we found that there was three parts that we kind of had to crack in terms of providing knowledge for the homeowner, removing the whole challenge and complexity of the upgrade service, and then the affordability. So we have the one-stop shops. They'll tackle each of those three topics as such. Like, they do a home energy assessment for the homeowner. That gives a homeowner a report that tells them what is needed to get to a B2 or better, the cost associated with the work. They do a technical design, they get a BER, they get these pathways laid out to them. So that's the information. So suddenly it's less intimidating because they have the knowledge. Then in terms of managing the work, a lot of people say this is an extensive project. How am I going to coordinate everything? The one-stop shops manage and coordinate everything for you from end to end. So you can pass that level of responsibility over to the one-stop shops. And in terms of the affordability side of it, which kind of really catches people, because on the individual energy upgrade grant support scheme, the homeowner has to find all the costs up front, and then they get the grant off us a number of weeks later. But under the one-stop shop service, the cost the homeowner has to find is net of the grant. So as I said, if the upgrade costs 50k and the grant comes to 30k, the homeowner only has to find that 20k. So it becomes, as I said, it becomes that bit more affordable. So they're the type, and who it suits, it's people that have that level of budget. So I would always say, if a typical home is being upgraded and they're getting windows and doors, a heat pump, attic, and cavity wall insulation, you're looking to have in the bank, say, 15 to 20k, and then we'll put the grant on
Okay.
top of that, and that'll cover. Whereas if you have that same house and external wall insulation is included in the upgrade, you're looking to have in the bank, or trying to find, in the order of, say, 30k upwards. And then the
Okay.
grant is added on top of that, just to give people an idea, if they enter down
Yeah,
that
sure.
one-stop shop route, the type of funding they need, the type of support and finances they would have to have for it to be. Now that can sway, because, as you know yourself, all the houses around the country, there's a whole different scenario. Some of them need more work than others. Some of them have work done already. So that can vary, but that's just a bit of an indicator.
Yeah, because it's
Um,
something that we get asked a lot, but obviously,
yeah,
I mean, every house is different, so it's really hard for us to give a figure. It's I think that's something that people ask me a lot
yeah,
anyway, how much am I going
e-
to get? But yeah, you need to
exactly.
the
Yeah,
assessment needs to happen. Yeah.
we have a range on the website where we say, like, one-stop shop, God, all in costs, you would probably need 30 to 60k. Okay, now then the grant comes off that. But it's just to give people a picture of, this is an extensive upgrade done in one go, multiple measures and so forth. So that's just who the one-stop shop suits, the different principles of the one-stop shops in terms of giving the homeowner the knowledge and the confidence through the home energy assessment. And if a homeowner gets a home energy assessment done, there's a €350 grant there for it. So they're not obliged to proceed. They can wait
Okay.
for a period of time. And a lot of the time, the home energy assessment may give the homeowner the knowledge to say, oh God, this isn't for me for another 18 months. Or, okay, this is what I thought, I'll go ahead. So it's really a package of information so they can make a decision on how to proceed. And it also
Typically, with
gives,
that 350 euro grant, how much kind of are you paying kind of outside of that grant?
for the HEA, well, we're
Yeah.
seeing in the order of 6, 7, 800 euro.
Okay.
But the homeowner should only be paying net that, so the 500.
Okay. Okay.
So that's the way it works. We're always kind of focusing on the affordability side and removing that all-in upfront cost.
Okay, perfect. I just want to just go back to just the individual grants just for a second. So obviously those grant amounts increase significantly at the
Mm,
start of the year, and they're all on our website as well. And I'll pop a link underneath this so people can go and have a look at them and see how much they're worth. But roughly, if just say if you wanted to get insulation just done on its own, Stephen, like I know it's different
yeah.
for different houses, but how much kind of a grant are we getting now for that?
It's in the order for cavity wall insulation. The grant has gone up to 80%, so that's excellent.
It's really good, yeah.
In terms of the wall, like in terms of heat loss through your walls, like a typical house is 30%. So immediately you're kind of saving heat, reducing your heat loss by 30%, say in a typical home. So the grant for that is roughly 80%. And then for the other measures, it kind of falls in the order of, it's gone up from previous to spring last year, say, the grant average was in the order of 30 to 35%. For the other measures, excluding attic and cavity, it's probably gone up to 45, 50%. So there's excellent incentives there to support homeowners in their journey, especially if they're taking that individual energy upgrade route over an extended period of time, to get to the B2 pathway or get to the B2 goal or better over 2 to 3 years, type of thing. Because not everyone will have that budget or that finances to go down the one-stop shop service route. So a lot of it kind of reverts back to the piece-by-piece approach through the better energy homes or the individual upgrade route.
And are you still going to, you're still going to end up with the same result? Like that's the only difference. It's all at once or done it like over time.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You're correct there. Like the one-stop shop, and it's a good point, the one-stop shop will bring you up to that B2 or better over 12 months, because that's the contract time frame. Whereas on the individual energy upgrade scheme, you could get to the B2. Say you might decide, okay, 3 years suits me because of my budget or whatever way I want to approach it. But you'll end up at the same place. It's just a different mechanism and way of doing it.
Brilliant. So now I'm going to talk, this is one of the trickier questions for you. So the time frames, I mean, this is something that we're getting a lot of, and we're going to go into this now a little bit more in depth for people. So the time frames for, we'll say, an individual grant or the individual upgrades versus the one-stop shops. This is something new. There's huge demand for it.
Yeah, the individual grants, they're more, it's a more established program that we'd have registered contractors for each of the measures. So registered contractors for heat pumps, registered contractors for external wall insulation and so forth. So we would have a range of a few hundred for each measure on the website. So you can go in and select a contractor based on, say, your location and so on, and you can call them up, and there's more on offer there in terms of the number of people who can install that measure you're looking for. So the time frame will be less. And now it'll depend on demand out there, how many people are looking for these people. So so that's that's agreed between the homeowner and the SEI registered contractor. It could be in the order of a few weeks for a contract to become available, but it depends on their particular circumstances. In terms of the one-stop shop, and since it was launched in spring, we've been adding to the register on a continuous basis. Like initially there was 5 on the register. Now it's up to 8. There'll be 9 hopefully over the next number of days, and we're hoping to add another 2 to that. So we're continuously increasing capacity on the one-stop shop side. And now I know there's extended time frame periods out there, and a lot of it is to do with, I suppose, when the scheme was launched and the grants were announced, there was huge demand from people calling in to different retrofit providers.
Of course,
and that was really good in a way, because it kind of ignited the supply chain. And that's what was needed for contractors to kind of say, oh, hold on a minute, there's a lot of demand, there's a lot of work here. So that's what's kind of driven a lot of our good providers, retrofit professionals, to become registered one-stop shops. So the more and more that capacity increases and the numbers on the register increases, that time frame will reduce. But we're just asking people at the minute, it's a lengthy period in terms of a lot of our one-stop shops have kind of 3 to 4 week respond dates back on queries and so forth. So it's just to bear with us, because there's significant demand for the program, but that time frame will reduce the more and more one-stop shops we get registered on the system naturally, because the capacity is growing. But it is, we just ask them to kind of bear with us. At the end of the day, it's a significant project if they go down the one-stop shop route that they're going to engage in, to the order of 30, 40, 50, 60K. So it's not something that can be rushed either.
Of course. I mean, I think at the moment as well, I mean, this isn't something that if you're applying now, you're going to get done in the next couple of months.
Exactly. So and a lot of time that time frame is needed to think about, is this the right solution, or do we go down this route, or in terms of finding finance and so forth. So it's not something you rush into. But I know at the minute there's a long period of time due to phenomenal demand, which is excellent. in
Yeah.
terms of where the public are and their awareness and where they want to get to and to do their bit. But as time goes by, and we've, I suppose, from internally and taking queries off once people who want to become one-stop shops, there's a lot of interest out there. So I can see that one-stop shop registration list grow, and our aim is to kind of have it up around the 18, 20 mark by the end of the year. And that the one-stop shops that we will have, then they will have a range of kind of experience in terms of a number of them will be builders, so they'll be able to tackle that whole kind of retrofit side and that extension at the side as well, which is very common in a kind of a retrofit project. Okay, so the register and the scheme just has to be given that time to mature and grow, to get adequate professionals on board. And I suppose it's just another point to note that I suppose we have a high bar in terms of who becomes a one-stop
Yeah,
shop.
I wanted to ask this. Yeah, I mean, just so
Yeah,
people know as well that it's not just the case that we're just
yeah.
adding the
You
website.
don't just
Yeah,
stick up your hand and
yeah,
say, "Come here." They have to have, like, at the end of the day, they're managing say a 30K grant that a
yeah,
homeowner wants to benefit from. So we have to have the right professional involved from end to end. Like, we're looking at the quality and they're competent to do this work. So I suppose that's if we put everyone and anyone up, we'd have 50 on the list. But we're making sure we get the right people on board, so everything is done correctly from start to finish.
yeah. Yeah, and it's making sure as well it's safety for the people that are getting those grants as
Yeah,
well, and that the work
exactly.
is going to be, and that you're going to achieve that B2 or higher as well, because that
Yeah,
is a condition of the grant as well, that you have to get there.
yeah, of course. Like it is, like the last people want to do is invest in all this kind of money and upgrade works, and suddenly they're falling short of the scheme requirements, or something is installed correctly. So there's a lot of those criteria that we have to make sure we have the right providers in place, so all that is guaranteed. Um, and I suppose it's just another point to note in terms of the people who kind of are considering going down the one-stop shop route. If you have a BER currently, and if it's a B3 to a G,
Mm,
it's the one-stop shop route could be for you. Anything that's a B2 up to an A, you've reached that optimal level. So the one-stop service don't cater for those type of homes. And also, if the house has to be built and occupied before
yeah,
2011. So it's just
yeah,
those two key criteria before you make the call.
yeah. And just for people, just for the built and occupied, that's the date that it was connected to.
Yeah,
So yeah, your
it needs to be
NPRN number
immediate.
will tell you that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, so I'm just going to go over to the questions, Stephen. There's actually some really good ones. I don't know. I think you can probably see them there.
I can't, but you fire them
Oh
at
yeah,
me.
sure. I'll fire
Louise.
them at you. So,
Makes
so
it more
Kevin, and
exciting.
this is, Kevin was asking, and this is something you touched on at the start, but maybe you'll explain why this is the case. So, is there still a grant for windows and doors? So, this is,
No.
I'd say, our most popular
Yeah.
question
Most
ever.
popular question. I suppose it's not as straightforward on the science behind it as such. We're trying to guide in terms of the individual grant program, the individual energy upgrades. The heat loss through windows in a typical house is 10%. The heat loss
Mm,
through your walls is 30%, and your attic is 30% in the typical house. So we're trying to focus homeowners to look at those priority measures, such as your walls and your attics. Okay, so that's the most cost-effective way to reduce your energy usage, your carbon emissions, and so forth. If we had an individual grant where windows were supported as an individual measure, people would be paying large amount of money for relatively minimal gain compared to what they would get if they upgraded the fabric in terms of the wall and roof. We've included it on the one-stop shop service because it's a part of a larger and more extensive upgrade. So you will get windows or doors if it's in conjunction with attic and wall insulation, say, for example, and a heat pump. So there's no way a homeowner can get grant support for windows and doors only.
yeah,
But it has to be, if they are going to get grant support for windows and doors, it needs to be part of a larger, more extensive package of
yeah.
energy upgrade works.
So that's why it's only through the one-stop shop route, and it's
Yeah,
not available
yeah, yeah,
as
through
an
the
individual
individual.
grant measure. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's through the one-stop, I just want to stress, it's through the one-stop shop route if it's a
Hmm.
part of a package of energy retrofit works.
Yes. Yeah.
So
So you have
yeah,
to be getting your heat pump, your
home
insulation. Yeah.
installation and so forth.
Brilliant. Julianne is asking about one-stop shops. We need to retrofit our 1910s mid-terrace, but also the house needs rewiring and replumbing, updating, etc. How is this all managed with the one-stop shop? Can the one-stop shop guys provide this too, or how can we coordinate all these works? I think that's a really good question.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and that's essentially why we have that one-stop shop service there.
Yeah.
We have the list of 8 on the website, and there's more to come, as I was saying. That lady, Julianne, needs to touch base with one of the one-stop shops, and the first step is, like I would see there, that screams for a home energy assessment,
Yeah.
where the one-stop shop could go out and tell them where they're at, what they need to do, give them an idea of their pathway, what their current rating is. So it could be a G, E, or F, and what they need to do to get to that B2 level and the cost associated with that. So that, if I was to advise Julianne on anything, is to consider getting a home energy assessment. So you get an idea report on the house and you can kind of look into it, and the one-stop shop will explain it in detail to you as well.
Yeah, but they're used to it. They will work with, they'll have like different contractors that they work with, and
Oh
they'll all,
yeah,
they'll all do it like
sorry,
exactly.
sorry,
Yeah.
Louise. Yeah, expanding on
Yeah.
that, if she decides to proceed down the upgrade side,
Mm.
the one-stop shop they'll do all the works coordination, the project management, the grant administration for you. So they'll take all that burden, that whole technical expertise and requirements, all that will pass to them.
Brilliant. So she
As
won't have to
such.
worry about coordinating
No,
plumbers and yeah.
definitely not. And that was
Lovely.
one of the aspects of the one-stop shop that we were stressing. A lot of people kind of might shy away from doing an upgrade because they need to coordinate the attic insulation guy or the external wall insulation guy with the window guy, and that could be enough to put them off. We're taking that away from the homeowner as such and moving it to the responsibility of the one-stop shop.
Brilliant. I think Julie on our team has answered this one, but Michelle is just looking to see how she wants to get her attic insulated. How much of a grant does she get? She's a 3-bedroom bungalow, semi-detached.
Oh, you have me now. Is it around 1,500?
That's what Julie said. We'll go
Yeah,
with what Julie
is
said.
it lovely? It's on the website.
Yeah.
If you go into individual energy upgrade grants, intuitively follow the website and you'll come to a grant table.
Yeah, I'm going to add in all the links underneath this as well, just for
lovely.
people so they can have a look at how do they contact one-stop shops. Actually, that's another question.
Yeah,
they're on our website, aren't they?
They're on our website. Like we have go onto the website, go into home energy upgrades. You'll see a one-stop shop service tab, and you'll see the list of registered one-stop shops there with contact numbers. They'll have a apply online function as well, so that's how you would contact them.
Brilliant. Sean is asking, how many upgrade measures do you have to carry out to qualify for the one-stop shop scheme?
That's a good question. Like we focus it on you're reaching the B2 and you are achieving 100 kilowatt hour per meter squared uplift. Now your BR assessor will say that, so it's generally multiple measures. Minimum, it's probably 2 or it's probably 3 at minimum, but it depends on the size of the house, the characteristic of the house. The BR assessor will be able to tell Sean that in terms of what needs to be done. But the criteria that we measure it on is that the house hits the B2 and it has the 100 kilowatt hour uplift at the end of the job.
Do you need to have, will you always need to get the heat pump?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Not necessarily. Like say for example, if you have a boiler in the house that's relatively new, there's a heating controls option, but you would have to do extensive fabric work. It's just to be careful that and that's why the one-stop shops come in and their knowledge. They will have technical assessors engaged, so all this is thought through, and the uplift is guaranteed.
Yeah.
The necessary
so it's going to be really
done
efficient to run as well. The house is going to be warm, and your bills are going to be lower. I mean,
exactly.
That's the real benefit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Carl is just asking, if anyone has any other questions, we'll take 1 or 2 more. But Carl is asking, must suspended floors be insulated for a heat pump installation?
It generally, yes. You see, heat pump insulation, it focuses on a heat pump runs most efficiently when the fabric of the house and is at a particular standard, and we a lot of the heat pump installers and technical advisors will come out to your house and assess that house by house, and we have a HLI factor in our technical specification. So in history, yeah, suspended timber floors. It depends on the nature of the house, but improving the floor insulation would be fairly positive when it comes to a suspended timber floor. But you'd have to assess it house by house, Louise.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But
So
in
again,
that
that
port of,
technical assessment. Yeah.
it's
Well. Yeah.
key.
Yeah.
We've anyone who gets a heat pump grant, and there's a mandatory requirement that a technical assessor is involved and goes out to the property and completes a technical assessment. So they look at the whole heat loss and ventilation characteristics in the property, and they'll look at the U values and the proposed upgrades, and they'll say, okay, your HLI, your heat loss indicator, is at this particular level, and we need to do X, Y, and Z to guarantee that the heat pump will operate efficiently, and then you go from there. So I would encourage Sean just to engage a technical assessor, just to assess the property before he goes forward.
Brilliant. Thanks, Stephen. There's one other question I just wanted to ask you, and I think it's something that we get asked a lot as well. How will someone know what one-stop shops provide financing options? Because some of them do provide different financing options, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of them would have knowledge on the various low-cost loans out there.
Yeah.
Because that's part of their requirement in terms of they have a knowledge, because it's the affordability side is key. A number of them do have links with different financial providers, but I would just encourage them to visit the websites.
Yeah.
And a lot of the ones that have partnerships with financial institutions or whatever, it's well documented on the websites, and have a browse before they engage. And that'll tell them what they need to know in terms of if they've partnered up with a financial institution or whatever. So that'd be my advice there. The website, like each of them would have an up-to-date website and a specific one-stop shop page, so all that key information would be included on it.
Yeah. Brilliant. I think we're probably going to leave it there. I hope that's answered everyone's questions about one-stop shops. It is, and as Stephen said, to bear with us. Is there anything kind of, Stephen, you want to kind of impress on people before we finish up or anything?
No, like it's just the next 6 months is key to build that capacity. And what I mean is just to get more one-stop shops registered on the system. And that naturally will alleviate some of the pressures off the lead-in times and supply chain constraints and so forth. But I think you said it right. Just bear with us, be patient, and that more and more providers will come on the register.
Brilliant. Stephen will give out his home phone number as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Lovely.
Thanks a million, everyone.
No problem.
We'll add this to the Facebook page as well, and to our YouTube channel. Perfect. And to our website. So I'll put in links to useful areas on the website as well. Thanks a million, everyone. Brilliant. And thanks, Stephen. You've been brilliant.
No bother. Thank you. All the best.